Hi, welcome back. This is a tutorial on my flawless everyday makeup routine. I can get this done 15-20 minutes. It is perfect for every day, feeling just a little bit more confident, a little bit more elevated, but also this is the perfect base for my high glam looks. So no matter if I am going into the office or in an editorial shoot, this makeup look is typically at the base and at the foundation of it. Thank you for watching. Make sure you're commenting, liking, subscribing. Really helps out my channel. And let's get into the tutorial. Quick disclaimer before we get started. This is my current flawless, to me, base routine. If your cousin, auntie, TT, makeup artist, next door neighbor has a better suggestion that works better for you, you have something that works and it's not this, you know what? That's okay, diva. And I encourage you to do that. If you have some tips, put them in the comments. Like, this is just what I've been doing and what I've been loving for my face and for my everyday look, but also the base for all of my high glam looks. And if you don't agree with some of them, that's all right. That's all right, and that's okay. Tell me what you do in the comments. Two, I am going to tell you in this video what specific products I use, and I want to emphasize that it's not that important that you get the exact same products. What is important in this video is that you are taking the tips, you're taking the techniques, and trying to use them in your current makeup application and the products that you have already. You do not need these specific products to get this specific result. That being said, every product that I use has really become a staple to me and something that I love, 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 and have my strong stamp of approval. I have used these products dozens and dozens of times. I love them very much, but some of them are pretty pricey. Some of them were sent to me. And I just want to say that they're not necessary. Do I love them? Do they perform really well? Yes. Are they 100% needed and necessary to get the outcome? No. And that's all right. Use what you have. Use what's in your budget. Use what, is not going to break the bank. Use what is able and accessible to you. Take the techniques. This video is free. There's not even any ads on it. Like, take the techniques and apply them using what you have and what you can. And that's it. I hope you enjoy the video. First things first, before you start to shellac on the makeup, you really got to make sure your government skin is in great condition. And of course, that starts with moisture. I'm going in with just a facial moisturizer. This is the CeraVe Daily Moisturizing Lotion because I'm a simple, affordable diva. Like, it comes in a huge bottle. It's not something you have to take out a second mortgage for. Like, it is affordable and it just like works really well. If you bare minimum just put some facial moisturizer on your skin, you are already in a great prep spot. And the tip for this is give it some time to soak into your skin. So I wouldn't put this on and put my foundation right on top of it. Like, put this on before you start putting on your makeup, put on your moisturizer, put on your eye cream, put on your potions and serums and everything that you got. Drink some coffee, eat breakfast, like give it at least 5 to 10 minutes for it to like absorb into your skin so that it's like maximally absorbed and that your skin is like in the best prep spot that it can be for cosmetics and all the glitz and glamour, the ooh-wee, the sensation. Okay, we're back. Fully caffeinated and ready to start putting on the cosmetics. We're starting with priming, and the moisturizer was kind of like a primer, but think of that more of like skin prep, and this is going to be like skin prep too. So normally for me, I like to go in with a sticky primer, and I like this because it just like helps products stick to my face. I also feel like the texture of sticky primers also just smooth out my skin, and it just gives me like a really moisturized, like soft base for my foundation, my skin tint, my next steps. But this part, primers are really personal to what your skin needs. So I like to kind of boost up my moisture. I like to have something that's going to really help the makeup stick because I'm really sweaty in my skin. Although like I would consider myself like normal dry. It does typically lean more towards the dry side than oily. So I like to go in with products that are going to like reinforce some moisture into my skin. But if you want you know, if you need something that's more oil controlling, or if you need something that's going to blur, there's a ton of options out there for you. Personally, I'm going in with the Milk Makeup Hydro Grip Primer. This has been duped and replicated many a time. So if this is out of your budget, of course, go in with one of the other dupes. One of my favorite kind of similar would be the Wet n Wild Prime Focus Clingy Primer. This feels really scrumptious, delicious on the skin, and it has to be like under $5. But there's 5011 duplicates of the Milk Makeup Primer, but this one is a good one to me. On top of whatever sticky primer I use, I go in with Trixie Cosmetics First Base. And this First Base priming spray, the combination of a sticky primer and the priming spray, two pretty best friends, and it just like really reinforced some moisture into my skin, and it makes my skin really sticky and prepped for some cosmetics. And I like to go in with like a decent amount and really get it on there. And I think the Hydro Grip Primer is just feels so nice on the skin. And I like to kind of put a lot on there. And then I go in with my spray while this is still wet, and I just and like, don't be afraid to put her on there. Use it. So exercising a bit of patience, you want these primers to dry so they get really sticky. Of course, you can use your Diva fan or a handheld fan or whatever. You can let it air dry, but you'll start to feel it get really sticky on your face, and that's how you know it's ready for the next step. Next, I go in with brows. I'm using the Ardell Brow Glue. I admittedly am not good at brows. I don't fill in my brows. I know that my brows could use a little bit of like filling and some TLC, but I regret to inform you, Diva, I just do a clear brow gel and go on with my life. Like, I want to do better, especially this brow's like really sparse on me, like right here. I just, it's me. I just can't be bothered with my brows. And I would like to get them like really nicely shaped and like waxed or plucked or threaded or whomever. But I'm just not there yet in my journey. So for me, and what works for me right now is just taking my natural brows, licking and sticking it with the strongest brow glue in the world. The Ardell Brow Glue is my everything, is my number one. And you see how it just kind of gives a little extra. And this brow glue will, I think, last through natural disasters. It's actually the best in the world. Okay, my brows are up and stuck. My face is nice and dry, but sticky, and I'm ready to go into my foundation complexion products. So I like to go in with foundation first, and this is a skin tint. You might be like, that's not a full coverage foundation. And I feel like I've kind of just been not gravitating towards full coverage foundations personally, but the techniques I'm going to tell you really does apply, and I think it's applicable to whatever foundation you decide to use. I am using the Milk Hydro Grip Tint. I'm in the shade 9. I love this Diva. I like to use this for full glam. I like to use it for natural B, my everyday B, everything. I feel like it's really buildable, and I just like the coverage. I like the finish. I like it. Dang. But if you are a skin tint gal, there's a ton of them out there. Or if you just have a foundation that you've used forever, or Lancome Teint Idole, rich, whatever you got, the technique still applies. I like to go in with like a thin layer of foundation all the way around. So that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going in with a brush. This is from Real Techniques. This is the Expert Face Brush. And it is just a little like squatty, dense brush. And I have been gravitating towards brushes and not sponges so much, just because I felt like I always needed to replace my sponges. If my brush gets dirty, I just wash it, and it can last me a very long time. I feel like you can only get the sponges but so clean. So that was my ultimate like hard reason. But I don't know, I feel like I kind of just fell out of love with sponges, especially for like complexion products. Anywho, I like the brush, but if you like a sponge, Diva, use a sponge. It's really up to you. But I like to go in with a combination of like stippling. I'll do a little brushing motion, but if you start to see streaks in your foundation because you're like swiping, you got to get back into just dab on them. I just like to distribute the product all over my face. I will avoid my direct under eyes just because I'm gonna put a lot of concealer, powder, so on and so forth on it. So I don't want to like make it too cakey under my eyes, but I'm just gonna blend it out. Foundation is blended out. I'm going to keep this brush nearby and it will come back a little bit later, but make sure you're putting this to the side. Put it somewhere. Going in with some bronzer. My favorite cream bronzer is the Trixie Cosmetics cream bronzer stick. This is in the shade for me, S'more Sun. It is just such a good bronzer. Going in with my cream bronzer, and I just have this angle, semi-fluffy but still pretty dense brush, and I actually like to just build it on to the brush. I like to have more control, so because this is bronzer, I'm going to hit all the spots on my face that, like, if I was outside in the sun would get a tan. So that'd be like around my forehead and like the tops of my cheeks here, because I want to look like basically I've been kissed by the sun. So I like to go through and slowly build. So getting some more on my brush and then slowly build on top of the foundation. And I like to do tapping motions. If you swipe, it could just disturb everything. And then you can see this is bronze. This one's not as bronze. And this gives you a little bit more like life. So I like to go through and slowly build this on, adding the dimension. Sometimes when you add foundation, especially if you're using really, really full coverage foundation, it just like sucks all the dimension out of your face because you like basically made yourself an egg, like one single color. So you need to add bronzer so that you can just bring some of the definition back into your face because you just like flattened yourself out with foundation. Looking and feeling bronze, keep this brush next to the foundation brush you just set aside because we will be back to using her. Don't let it get too far. This brush, putting it to the side with my foundation brush. Cream blush has quickly become one of my favorite steps in my makeup. It just makes me look so cutesy. I have been living, laughing, loving the Kimchi Cheeky lip and cheek sticks. They're just so like creamy. Like, I don't know, like what I like about them is that like because they're like a cream in a stick, they don't dry down super matte. They actually don't dry down matte at all. So they give you a lot of time to blend and just kind of marry it to your face. Going in with Pinched and the shade Bloomed. And I like to use this because this is more like peachy, cute girl. And then to add some definition, this is more of like a darker, hotter pink. And this just like adds a little, like, you know what I mean? So I'm going in with Pinched, which is this nice peachy shade. And I really like to do a nice little swipe there, as you can see. And you can really see how like balmy it is. It's not going to like, you don't need to have your brush like in your hand already ready to blend because it gives you some wiggle room. My brush of choice for blush is a Danessa Myricks brush, and the brush name kind of like edged off, so I don't know exactly. I'll try to put it on the screen somewhere. But basically, this may be a foundation brush, but it's like an angled dense brush, pretty similar to the other two brushes I used. Pretty soft, but still also dense, but I like that it's curved, and I have a bigger face, so I feel like I can get away with a brush this big. But if you have a smaller face, use a smaller brush. But basically where I put the blush, I like to tap it to blend it in. So you got to remember here, sometimes like the word like blush blindness goes around a lot, and all you have to do is not be afraid. Don't be scared. Like, you're in control here. So if you are putting on a lot of blush and blending it out to here and blending it out to here, that's why you have blush blindness. But you're in control. You have the brush. So if I don't want the blush to go down to here, don't put your brush down here when you're blending. Like, keep it to where you're at. And generally, with like most things in life, you can always add more, but it's much harder to take off. So, you know, start off conservatively and just blend only where you want the product to be. So for me, in this peachy color, I like to go pretty close into my eye and blend in towards my eye. And then I like to blend it to about here on my face. So I don't want it to go past where my bronzer is. I want it to really stop right here. So I'm gonna stop right there. That's simple. And this application, this technique really works with any color combination that you like. So if you're like, I'm not really a peachy girl, I really like plums, I really like purple, do it with plums and purples. It's more of the technique and less of the exact product, less of the exact shade and all that stuff. And then I like to take the deeper shade, and this is the shade Bloomed. This is just a slightly hotter pink. And I like to take this and do one dot right where like the height of my cheekbone is, and much of the same, tap to blend. And I don't typically bring this hot pink color more in. I like to bring it more out. So it really just offers like a gradient. So the light peach here, and then I'm reinforcing with the hotter pink there. Again, this can be used with any color combination that you would like. Purple, red, hot pink, any of that. And I just like to use the pink to almost make a really light gradient. Again, only pushing and blending where I want the blush to be. And remember, this is cream, so powders are going to go on top of it. So if it seems a little bit strong on the blush, you're probably in a good place. So this brush also keep close by. So you want to have in your quick reach, you want your foundation brush, you want your cream bronzer brush, and you want that cream blush brush close by, because now we're going to be using the other brushes. So this is where I think the fine tuning of my makeup really comes in. I don't think I've done anything up until this point that is like outside of the norm. So go in with your other brushes and blend some of these lines. And of course, we're blending along the way, but it just needs a little bit of help. And this is what's really going to take your makeup from, I think, like good to great. It's just taking that extra time, taking that extra like beat to blend, and it's going to be so easy, I promise. So like I said, I only put the blush brush where I want the blush to be. And right here, I want to fix the line of demarcation between my bronzer and my cream blush. And because I don't want to bring the blush out, I'm going to go in with my bronzer brush. And I did not add any extra product to this. This would just be using whatever is left over in the brush / just the brush itself. So now I'm just going to go over and reinforce my bronzer here. Again, I did not add any product, just using this to help blend out the blush. And of course, this is already where we put bronzer, so just helping to blend this out without spreading the blush around with the actual blush brush. Just going in and using it there. So I also want to blend out right here. It just looks just like a stark difference between my foundation and my blush. So to not bring the blush all the way down, I'm going in with my foundation brush. No additional product on here, just whatever is left over in the brush for me applying my foundation and going over the seams here. So this is where the foundation and the blush would meet. So going in with the foundation brush just to help marry that seam there. So that is going to make a much more seamless blend. So I haven't done this side yet. And you can see the blush has a hard stop right there. You see the hard stop where my bronzer and blush, they're just not quite married yet. This side is just a little bit more fluent. And that's what you want from your makeup. And it only takes a couple of seconds and no additional products, just going back in with the other brushes. I really hope you can tell the difference. This side, so blended. This side, while it looks okay, it's just around the seams, just not quite what we want. Make sure you're keeping the 3 brushes still in the VIP section, because we will be going back into these, because now we have to do concealer. I like to do concealer kind of last. So I am going in with the Kimchi Chic, the Most Concealer. I love this one. So depending on your desired effect, we'll choose what concealer shade you're going to use. If you want something that's just going to conceal and not super highlight, make your under eyes really bright, go with something more closely related to your skin tone color. And if you really want like glamour, then go, you know, several shades lighter than your skin tone so that you can feel the fantasy. But I'm going in with the Most Concealer by Kimchi Chic Beauty. And this is quite a few shades lighter than me because I like the glamour. So now we're just going to apply the concealer, and I just like to do little dots in my inner corner. And if you're like me and you've been watching makeup YouTube for many years, y'all know they used to do the big old triangle. And why I don't suggest that, and why I feel like most people don't suggest that anymore, is because that is like really easy way to like put too much product on. You can apply a little bit, blend it out, apply a little bit more. Like I said, like most things in life, it is easier to add a little bit more than it is to try to like take some off and backtrack. So start with a little bit, blend it out into your desired shape, and if you want more coverage, add more later. Period. As you may know, I'm a sweaty diva, so I like to go in with something that's going to help keep my makeup locked in. And something that I feel like that has changed my life is applying my long wearing setting spray while I'm still blending out my cream product. So it's just going to add another layer of protection. If you have been using the one size until dawn and you're like, that ish don't work for me like it does for everyone else online, maybe try to use it more into your routine. And that means not just doing a miss at the end. It means using it throughout the process. I normally like to do it at this step because I'm kind of waiting for my concealer to dry a little bit. It gives me a little bit more coverage when it like sets down a teeny tiny bit. We're still blending it, so we don't want it to set down fully, but I feel like it's like the perfect use of time while you're kind of stalling anyways, waiting for it to dry. Go in with your long wearing spray. Scandinavia, been that girl, always been that girl for a very long time. If y'all know the old formula of Urban Decay's all-nighter setting spray, that's their formula. So if you missed that old formula, get you some Scandinavia. It's so tea. I actually like it a little bit more than the one size one. I'm sorry. But there's a ton of long wearing setting sprays out there now. But I like to go in, get you a good mist. You know it's a long wearing setting spray when you can like smell it. You can tell it's working. I like to let it dry, but not all the way. Like I said, we still got some blending to do. Okay, going in and blending out. So I like to use pressing motions. This is kind of like a really dense angled brush. This is by, it has rubbed off. I want to say I got this in like an Ipsy bag or something. I'll try to see if I can find this exact brush, but it's really just a really dense angled concealer brush, and go in and blend it out. So this initial blend, I am just placing the product, mind you, no product on this brush, just using the dab that was there and blending it out to make the shape that I want. So I like to build my concealer out to just about there. I don't like to do it all the way back, especially for natural everyday. I like to give myself a little wing moment there, but not all the way out. And I'm going to blend it down just a bit. As you can see, that is there. Now do the same on the other side, going in and really, as you can see, just little tapping motions. And this tapping motion is going to help you move the product where you want it to be. So you can really see how that little dot goes a long way. So if I would have put product all the way there before blending it out, it would be so much product under my eye. That would mean more likely to have cakiness, wasting product, and overall making it just like really hard to blend. But yeah, that is that. And I like to use whatever excess is on the brush, and I like to highlight areas on my face to be highlighted. That'll be like the center of my forehead, my top lip, and on my chin. And again, I just use whatever was left over into my brush just to not have too much product on my face. This looks a little bit wild, but we can make it so much better. And that is through the power of a blend. And that's why you want to go through and use these other brushes. A couple of things that we're paying attention to. We want to try to keep as much coverage in this inner corner, because that's what we're really trying to cover, is like the darkness, the bags right under my eye there. But as you can see around the edges, it needs a little help. It just needs like some fine tuning, especially on this side. It just, even here, it just needs a little bit of, como se dice, like time. So this brush that I had the concealer on, y'all saw, it still has product in it, and I don't want my concealer to be anywhere else but right where I put it. So you got to go in with the other brushes, similar to the technique that I use for the blush. I don't want to use this brush to try to blend in, because it's just going to like eat up the rest of my products. So what I like to do is, because this part here is the marry between the concealer and the blush, I'm going to go in with my blush brush, not adding any additional product, and just going over the edges and tapping out the edges there. And you'll see, it'll just start to magically kind of blend together. But I am only focusing on the line of demarcation. So I'm not going to go into this deep inner corner and try to blend that out. One, because it's going to eat up the coverage there. And also, I didn't have blush all the way in that inner corner. I'm just trying to make sure they are kind of blending out seamlessly. But also, again, still only using the blush brush where I put blush on my face. Just trying to blend out the lines. See? And now, for here, over on this side, remember, that's where I put bronzer. So I'm going to go in with my bronzer brush and really blend out the bronze station there. So this part is really going to blend in that concealer, the bronzer, the blush, and really get rid of those harsh lines. I'm also going to use that bronzer brush to fix the wing here. And I like the lightness. I like that it looks like it's shaping my eye, but I don't like that it's like a harsh line. So going in there, just blending that out. Boom. And look how much better that looks already. But we're not done yet. Going in with this foundation brush, I'm going to just, I want to keep the coverage in the center, so I'm just blending out the outside. As you can see, it's still light in there, but it's just blended. Same thing. I go with my foundation brush, go around, just hitting those edges so that it is nice and blended into the foundation. Period. So for this part, I like to go with my foundation brush because that is what the product is meeting with there. On my nose is foundation. So just going in and just a couple of taps. Again, I want to keep the product as concentrated in my inner corner. So I'm literally just hitting the edges so that it is blending out. Okay, now look at the material. Fully blended out, looking gorgeous. And this side, although it doesn't look bad, it doesn't look great. So let's get this side, blend these edges in so that it can match this one before we powder. All right, now we are looking blushed, still pretty concealed. I like this concealer. I feel like I only ever need one coat, but this is where you go in and inspect. You're like, okay, I want to add a little bit more concealer. I want a little bit more cream blush. I want to add a little bit more bronzer, all that. But throughout the blending, I did not add any additional products. You can always add more product, but I try to use the brushes, try to have the products like do what they're supposed to do without like just putting more on. And of course, you can always put more on. So that's kind of where the practice comes in. You'll be able to tell and be like, okay, this is normally what it looks like. This is what I want. And this is still just cream product, so it looks wet. We're about to put a bunch of powders on it, so it'll kind of diffuse out the blush a bit. Everything will kind of be like toned down, especially the shine, all that stuff. But you really want to look and see, like, is it giving good bones? Does it have good bones? Then yes. And then the powder stuff will be really easy. We really did like all the hard work already. We're just setting it and forgetting it now. I have been loving a pink powder underneath of my eyes. I just feel like it just amplifies my blush. I love a blushy moment. So I'm going in with the pink powder by Kimchi Chic Beauty. Everybody and their mother has a pink powder out right now. Wet n Wild, everybody. I do really enjoy the formula of Kimchi, but use what you got, use what you like. And I'm going in with a powder puff. This is the One Size Beauty powder puff, but use whatever you like. I love a powder puff. I like it more than using a brush or anything for like this initial set. I just feel like on top of like the glamour, I feel like powder puffs are so glamorous. And sometimes it is about the fantasy, like it is. I like a powder puff because it just really like sets the powder in there. So I like to go through with my concealer brush, no additional products, and really hit my under eye just to blend out any creases that may have formed from me yapping and blending and all the things. I'm gonna take my powder, dip it into my pink powder. And like I said, you can always add more product, but it's really hard to take off some. So I like to do you know, a tap tap on my hand and then really go in and push this into my under eye. And I'm really just going to put this in all the places that I put concealer. So going through and just tapping it in there. Again, if I feel like I need a little bit more, I'll pick up what I left on my hand and really put it in there. If you feel like your under eyes are getting really cakey at this step, maybe you put on too much powder at first, but just going in and pressing it. And look how just like, look how gorgeous that is. I get the fantasy of like a compact, like with a powder puff, but also it just works really well. I like the application. I'm gonna do the same thing on this side and pressing that in. I feel like the pink powder just really helps reinforce my blush. I really like how it lightens my under eye and I like it. But if you're not a blush diva, go in with any powder. Like go in with translucent, skin tone, banana, whatever it is that you like or need or want. This is just what I do. And now that that preliminary powder's there, I can go in a little bit more heavy-handed. I'm gonna take a little bit more and kind of reinforce the areas that I want to be really set, but also really lightened and highlighted. And that'll be like my innermost corner there. And that kimchi powder, just like, look at the blurification of the situation. Just gorgeous. Going in with the One Size Ultra Peach, and I don't feel like the Ultra Peach is obviously not as pink as a pink powder, but it is a little bit tinted. Of course, you can use whatever you have. If you have a translucent powder, one that works a little bit better with your skin tone, use what you have, use what you like. Like I said, I like to put some in the lid. This is a lot. This is going to last me several makeup applications, but just tapping some out. I use the same powder puff. I usually just use a different part of the puff, and I will dip the puff in there. And as you can see, it picked up a lot of product, and that's too much. So just going in and getting a good tap, tap, tap off just to control how much product's in there. And I like dewy skin. I like my skin to look lifelike. So this part I really do just set the areas that I feel like need powder, whether that because they're super sweaty, they get oily, I just don't want shine there. But this also is going to help with longevity. So typically I set around my mouth because that's where I get really sweaty, but also eating, drinking, and I don't want it to be oily here. Like you want it to be a little shiny here or on your highlight areas, but you really don't want like a greasy around the mouth. But this area really needs the matteness. It also needs longevity. Here we are, all powdered up, a little dusty, but we're not quite done yet. I don't let my face like bake for very long. Just going in with a clean, fluffy brush. This actually has no product in it, and just really dusting off any excess. It'll still leave, you know, the powder that it used, but I don't want it to sit too long because I feel like it starts to really, really, really dry out my skin. But just brushing it away, and any excess powder on your brush can just set the areas that I didn't like hard, firm press powder into. All right, honestly looking and feeling gorgeous, but we put a lot of work into the cream base of our skin. So this powder part is really just going to be reinforcing and tweaking anything that I want to make a little bit bolder, take a little bit back, just fine tuning. This is the easy part. And now that we are fully powdered, we will no longer use any of the brushes that we used for the cream products. And for liquid, cream, wet products, these brushes are more dense. And typically for powder products, these are more fluffy and light. So you'll see me no longer using these brushes. You can send them home. Now take them out of the VIP section because we are using them no longer. Now that we have transitioned into being powdered, we're going to stick to mostly powdered product. Let's go in with some powder bronzer, just a teeny tiny bit. We already bronzed, but we're just going to help dust off some of the powder off of our bronzer. I'm going in with the Trixie Cosmetics brush in Y15. This is one of their bronzer brushes. I like it because it's huge, but also it really tapers off into being like this skinny moment. And I like that for just like, your powder bronzer of choice is exactly that. Your powder bronzer of choice. You can go in with Trixie Cosmetics. I don't know if they sell this anymore, but it is really good. I do really like it. Really pigmented down. But I'm also going to go in with the One Size bronzer trio. This is in the trio medium dark, and it comes with 3 different shade options. I typically go in with the middle one. Like I said, we've already bronzed. We're just trying to dust off some of that setting powder on there. So I am going to very lightly tap in there, just a smidge, like one tap, dust her off, and then with the lightest flick of your hand, just go in and help reinforce the bronzer. Right? A tap, a tap. Again, if you put on too much product, it is much harder to fix than just adding a little bit more, right? Putting it on there and just really reinforcing where I put the bronzer before. If you're not putting on a little bit too much blush, then are you really living? I'm already very blushed, and for a lot of people this may be a stopping point. It's beautiful. It still really shines through the powder, the concealer, all those things, but like I said, I kind of like to add a little bit more powder blush on top to knock some of the dust off and to further just like re-enhance, lock down some of that blush. Going in with 2 shades, I like to use one that's a little bit more peachy here, and then I like to add dimension with a little bit more pink. Of course, depends on what shade you use. This is just what I'm using. I'm going in with the One Size Beauty blush trio. As you can see, hated it. Just kidding, used it to the bone. I'm going in with the matte shade here. This is in the shade Fat Ass, and just doing a light little tap on my brush. You can see this is the Trixie Cosmetics brush in the style TT11. This is from their Teletubbies collaborations. It's their blush brush, and I like to just very lightly tap into the pan there on the very tip of the brush. Again, we've already put blush on, and just reinforcing the blush here. So I'm not going to dig it under my under eyes. I really like my blush, the powder part, to be really where I want the traditional blush to be. And for my face shape, I like to apply products, as you can tell, more like, because I want to look more, but depending on your face shape. I like to apply my blush specifically in an upwards fashion. So I don't apply the blush really on like the apples on my cheeks. I don't want it to like drag my face down. I want it to help drag my face up. So just going in and tapping there. As you can see, just reinforcing that blush. Because I like to add a little more dimension, going in with this Diva. This is so hot. This is just the Show Pony blush by Trixie Cosmetics. It is just a deeper, hotter pink. And going in slightly. That's it, that's all. Even tap it off a little bit. And I'm just really going to help reinforce that deeper blush back here. And of course, we learned this technique. If you feel like it's going into your bronzer a little bit, just go in with that bronzer brush, no extra product, and help with the blend a bit. As you can see, I didn't add any powder blush here. It just helped dust off some of the lighter setting powder and just reinforce the blush a bit, but they're both blushed a lot. Let me do the other side. I'll be right back. Now, we have reinforced our bronzer. We have reinforced our blush. What does that mean we have to reinforce next? Exactly, our under eyes. And this is all personal preference. This makeup is fun, but this is specifically personal preference. I really like to lighten my under eye, so I go in with the One Size versatile foundation powders, and I just really build it up under my eyes. I like this powder a lot. It just adds some coverage, it blurs, and it just also helps with me adjusting the color, adjusting all that good stuff. So I like to go in with 2 shades. This is my skin tone shade in the shade medium dark 1. And then I like to go in with a white shade. Ookie spooky, Halloween passed, but we're still here for a trick. Right? Wrong. You can use a white powder if you aren't close to the skin tone. You just have to kind of finesse. And why I like the white powder, because it can lighten any other powder that you have. So I go in with my foundation shade and I like to lighten it just a bit so that I can really highlight underneath of my eyes. But I can use the foundation powder to also keep it close. So I'm going to go in with that, a couple dabs, and then I like to dab into the white. I'm using the One Size Kite shaped like little puff. It just like gets under the eye really well. If I were to use a brush for this part, I would use one shaped like this, kind of like a tulip brush. And this is nice because it's nice and thin at the top, so you can really like get under your under eyes really well if I were to use a brush. Going in with my concoction, my secret formula, I like to go through and just tap underneath my eyes. And if you haven't used this foundation powder before, it's really good. And it just adds some highlight, but also it just blurs. So if you felt like you went a little bit too heavy-handed on that powder blush, you can go in and tone her down, but it just like puts a filter on your skin. Look at that. And it's such a slight difference. And this is me. I love the fantasy. So if you're like, I am happy with the way my under eyes looked without the powder underneath, go off. But if you wanted to add a little bit more, if you're like, I just wish it was a little bit lighter, you can go in with a white powder. The white powder alone can be really, really, really dramatic. So just going in with your foundation shade and just lightening it up will give you this. And just lightly tap it in there. This product is great because it doesn't make your under eyes cakey. Of course, if you add too much, it will be cakey. But if you're just going in, it does its job and it gets out. Like, you don't have to worry about it adding a bunch of cakiness unnecessarily under your eye. Like, because you're just adding like you only need a kiss of it. And let's say I added too much white, or this is too much of a highlight, or if I wanted to add a little bit extra coverage around my nose, I would just go in with my foundation shade and putting her there. If I wanted to help blend out the brightness, I'll put just my foundation shade and it does the trick. If I were to go out and say that I wanted something to keep in case I needed a touch up outside of my house, I would bring these in a little powder puff to help if you get a little oily, you can like, or if you feel like you were eating and like your makeup's breaking up a little bit around whatever, you can like add a little bit of coverage back, get you back matte, get you blurred. All my powders are applied. I feel like I look stunning, gorgeous, and beautiful. I'm going to set this, and I'm going to do 2 layers of setting with this. I like to go in with like a more wet set first, just to help blend and marry the powders, kind of dust off anything extra. I have a couple of options of what I like to go for that. As you can see, both of them are well loved. The One Size powder melt is a really great one. It gives you just like a really dewy, lived in look, which I love. That is like my desired like finish for my makeup. I really do love this, and it helps just, you know, get rid of that dustiness that powder can give you. I also feel like I get that same effect with the Milk Hydro Grip Set and Refresh Spray. These are both pretty pricey, and there are, of course, dupes of them or other alternative options in the drugstore. I am going to go in with the Milk one today, but I literally don't have a preference over one over the other. And just spray her down. And now we wait for her to dry. You can see it just brings kind of like the life back into your skin. Let's do our lip next. And of course, this is really just a base for whatever makeup look I'm going on with. So lip, eyeshadow, all that stuff really depends on the look that you're going for. For today, I'm just going to go in with what my everyday lip would be. Going in with This is HR Honey by Trixie Cosmetics. And I just like to line my lips. I think that's good for my lip liner. Blend it out if you feel necessary. The setting spray leaves a really like lived in dewy finish, which I love. I think for most of my face, that is the desired finish that I want. But for some parts of my face, like right here, it just looks greasy, and that is not the fantasy I'm trying to give. So I like to go in with my powder puff. I wanted to use the little kite one, but I already can't find it, and I literally have not moved from this spot. I digress. Just get a powder puff or a little brush or something, but I like to go in with a puff for this, and I'm going to go in with just the foundation powder and just do a little dip on there. I'm going to put this in places where I don't want excess shine. And as you can see, like, you see the difference? Like, look how major that is. And it didn't, you know, mess up any of the product underneath. It just kind of dusted off some of that shine. And that's what I'm saying, like, you really have to cater this to be how you want your makeup to be. So although I do want all of my face to look like just skin beautiful dewiness, I don't want it everywhere. And it doesn't have to be. And if you do want it everywhere, period. But you can actually go in and like kind of correct where you want the dewiness to be. Okay, now that my face is exactly how I want it, I'm going to set it. This is where you want to use that long wearing finishing spray. You can go in with Scandinavia that I really love. This is like, you know, the OG formula of all nighter. You can go in with your one size powder. Like I said, when I was using my cream products, I went in with this one. Choose your own adventure. This is not going to give you that dewiness. This is just to finish and seal your final makeup in. You can really choose which one you want. I am just for funsies going to go in with the one size spray. That's how you know it's working. Don't be scared. Do a layer. Let it dry. Do another layer. My problem area with longevity is right around my mouth. So after the whole face layer dries, I'll go through and do another layer around my mouth. All right, let's do the last final finishing touches and we'll be out of here. I'm going in with some mascara. I'm going in with the Milk Makeup Kush High Roll Mascara. This is a tubing mascara. Put on your mascara of choice and we'll be right back. I do top and bottom lashes. So I applied the mascara top and bottom. I do the top pretty heavy, the bottom pretty light. But if I'm talking every day, I'm wearing my government lashes. I am not a faux lash girl every day. I just don't have it in me. I know that I like fully commit to the fantasy, but like we all have a line. Like I I just can't do false lashes every day. If you don't want me at my government lash, you can't have me at my full lash moment. You can't, like, and it's cute. And last but not least, going in with just a cute little gloss. And I would normally go in with like Lollipop Luxe, but I can't find her. So just going in with Perfect 10 gloss by Trixie Cosmetics. And this is a pretty sheer berry gloss. Okay, so here's the look. I think if I was really focused and had somewhere to go, I could get this done in 15-20 minutes. So this is my everyday makeup look. This is also the perfect base and foundation for my creative look. So if I'm doing a more creative eyeshadow or fun lips, fun blush, whatever the case may be, this is typically the techniques and the foundation, the base of what I'm working with for my face. No matter the glam level, no matter how long I take, this is typically the base that I go with. I'll just change out maybe some of the blush shades, lip shades, add some eyeshadow, but this look is perfect for every day. And I just feel so beautiful and so confident. And that's what you want. It is like just blended, beautiful, pink blush realness that you need. And I just love this look so much. All right, that is the video for today. Thank you so much for watching. If you made it this far, comment something. Talk to me in the comments. Tell me your favorite color. Dang, let me know if you learned something or if any of these tips were helpful. If you have any tips that you want to share about your beauty makeup routine, let me know in the comments below. It really does help my small little channel. Comment, like, subscribe. I do a lot of hair, beauty, just vlogs, commentary, lifestyle, all the things. Make sure you are subscribing. It really does help out my video. Comment, like, subscribe, do all the things, interact with me. It helps me out greatly. Thank you so much for watching. I'll check you guys in the next one. Bye.